1. So it looks like we've got our sound sorted out. So good evening to you one and all. 6 minutes 57 into the 12 minutes of qualifying. And Leon van Wyk, while we were busy with our settings, Leon van Wyk has in fact gone to the front end of the field. Has Leon van Wyk. That's looking very decent for Leon. Wow, and he's got alongside him provisionally Willem Botha. Graham Stephen is in the house, as is Timothy Stanton. Never count him out. A lovely quali so far there by Kyle Lawrence. That's looking pretty decent for Kyle. Peter van der Spy still ahead of Sandro Bakari, but by a much smaller gap. It's now a 153.44, and Sandro has gone for a 153.70. So that's just 26 hundredths of a second between the two of them as Timothy Stanton goes up onto the front row of the grid. Timothy Stanton's in it. He's in it and he's on it. A 52.6 by Leon, a 52.7. 2 by Timothy, and that 4 hundredths of a second quicker than Graham Stephen. Willem finds himself just outside of that, 18 hundredths of a second. Further back, Sandro Bakari has obviously been listening to the commentary and decided, and well, he's got it right up there. Kyle Lawrence still doing an amazing job, but we just sort out a couple of technicalities on the sound. It looks like our technical man, Mr. Look Easy, is in the background, and he's got that one sorted out for us. So that looks like it's all good. Gerald Fourie pops in a nice time, gets himself up onto the third row of the grid. Does Gerald Fourie in the 11. He'll have time to do one more lap as well. So he might even be able to bump it up a little bit further. Our new man, Joopie Simons, he's gone into the pits. He says, I think I've done enough, as does Willem Botha. Drives it back in the pits. Leon van Wyk says, I'm on the front row of the grid. I'm pretty alright with that. I don't have a hassle. And he drives it straight back in. Graham Stevens still out there and on the fly. Nope, he's backed off. He's not going to go any further. As we said, Gerald will probably be able to do one more lap. So that should be quite fine for him. So let's see how this one's going to play itself out. This should be a very interesting race as a whole if you look at the gaps that there are all the way down to 9th position within 6/10 of one another. So that's pretty Iowa. So as the time ticks away, there's just a half a minute that's still left. Who is still out there trying to complete a lap? Graham's decided no. Swayze has decided no. Willem's still on the move, but I don't think Willem's going to make it all the way around to the Start finish line. Nah, he's going to be too far away. I don't think with 15 seconds to go, he might just make it. Can Willem Botha come in right on the last? Is this going to be the talking? No, I don't think he's going to make it. 4, 3, 2, 1. Just a little bit too late. Literally 2 seconds was the difference, and that means that he's going to stay on the third row of the grid. So let's have a look at that grid. As such, Leon van Wyk and Timothy Stanton on the front row of the grid. Graham Stephen with Swys Joubert. Willem Botha with Gerald Fourie. On the fourth row, Carl Lawrence. Fourth row ahead of Raymond Duggan, JJ van der Merwe. Johan Engelbrecht rounds out the top 10 with Michael Stephen down in 11th. Wouldn't have expected that. I would have expected him to be a whole bunch further forward. Let's look at the back end. Yasamaya, Yopi Simon, Stephen McCarthy. Also, not a good one for Stephen McCarthy. Herman Lazarus right off the back of the pack. So probably find he hasn't had a chance to do much practice. I know that he has been outside of Cape Town in the last week or so. So you'll probably find he's come into this one. And he has not had a chance to do any practicing at all. So where are we going to be? We're out at SUZUKA in the Radical SR8. That's the car that we're going to be driving with. There they're all standing just about good to go. Everybody will have to do one pit stop. And then thereafter, you can actually do it at the end of the lap number 1, or you can do it on your penultimate lap, your last lap, before you go across the start-finish line. You don't have to worry about it if you go in after lap number 1. And what happens is you find that the likes of Michael Stephen, you'll probably find coming off the back end of the top 10 in 14th position. Don't be surprised if somebody like Michael Stephen goes for an early dive into the pits, get out of the traffic as a whole, and then get yourself back into the race with open ground in front of you as they start with their formation lap. Leon van Wyk and Timothy Stanton with Swys Joubert with Graham Stephen alongside him. Willem Botha and Peter van der Spaes beat out on Sandro Bakari. He's in that 6th position, Sandro down in 10th. But the points is only added in at the end of the race, not at the beginning of the race. It's going to be 25 minutes of hell-bent action. They work their way around the calm before the storm. Just that last little chicane. And in a couple of seconds, the pace car goes off, and it looks like Leon van Wyk's going to put the hammer down. Leon van Wyk's not watching and waiting for anybody. He gets the hammer down and off he goes. Timothy Stanton's going to have to move across on that right-hand side because Swys Joubert and Graham Stevens on the inside. Graham Stephen on the inside line. They go alongside one another. Swys and Graham Stephen, they are still alongside one another. It's Willem Botha that's directly in there behind him. Swys Joubert is, he dives across to the other side. Magnificent struggle between Graham Stephen and Willem Botha is now closed up onto the back of Swys Joubert, who lost out on that battle with a hard charging Graham Stephen. Michael Stephen down in that. Two of them go off, unfortunately. And that's a big pity because that is going to take Swys Joubert completely out of it. And Graham Stephen is going to have to go into the pits as well. They had such a brilliant battle. Leon van Wyk from Timothy Stanton, Carl Lawrence in that 3rd position. There's Willem Botha, but in behind Willem Botha is Peter van der Spaes and Gerald Fourie in there. There was a major pile up there now. And I think Stephen McCarthy was the man that was involved with that as we ride with Gerald Fourie. We'll go back to that one now and see what actually happened there. It could have been Raymond Duggan that was involved with that one right from the beginning. Too many cars, too small an area, under braking, going 3 abreast, locking it up completely. And then everybody just piling in. You'll see Stephen McCarthy at the back of that one as well. A lot of damage to a lot of cars. Let's look at it from Michael Stevens' point of view, as Michael Stevens worked his way in. Yeah, he was just right in the middle of that. He looked to go around the outside. He looked to go towards the inside. Neither of those two was going to work. And the man that leads up front, look at that. Nice open ground in front of him. He'll be pretty chuffed with that, Leon van Wyk. But if he looks behind him, well, that is his nemesis, Timothy Stanton. Timothy Stanton doesn't easily make mistakes whatsoever. You've got to be on your game, and you cannot make mistakes whatsoever if you've got the likes of Timothy Stanton in there behind you. Carl Lawrence, well, he scored big time out of this one, did Carl Lawrence, because with what happened in front of him, Graham Stephen, Michael Stevens, Sandro, Raymond, Steven Swace, and Joopie Simon have all gone into the pits, and that's just opened the door wide up for Carl Lawrence. There you can see, there is Carl Lawrence losing a bit of ground to Timothy, but locking up that left-hand front is Carl Lawrence. Coming up his inside line is Willem Botha. Willem Botha's got to actually hoof it up, because Willem has got two problems. One, the fact that he's stuck in there behind Carl Lawrence, and Carl will probably be a smidgen off the pace, no disrespect of Timothy Stanton. And the other problem for him is called Gerald Fourie, because Gerald Fourie is now starting to close. He's to within 0.9 of a second behind that battle. So while Carl Lawrence is doing a sterling job out there, he's definitely going to be the nemesis right now for Willem Botha. Willem gets right in there behind him. Let's ride on board with Willem Botha in behind Carl Lawrence. Into that final little complex they go. Nice to see the Ferris wheels out there. Ease it through the gearbox. Carl Lawrence has actually made a bit of a gap on him. Carl Lawrence has done a brilliant job. A 53.2, a 53.6. A Timothy Stanton closing on a Leon van Wyk. Carl Lawrence a 53.9, a 54.2 for Willem, which means that Gerald Fourie will be closing, and we're riding on board with Willem. So what happens if we look back from Willem? Oh my goodness gracious me. Gerald Fourie is closing. You can see as he gears down, running a very rich mixture as the flames come out of that gutter of an exhaust at the back of the Radical SR8 that we're running here today at Suzuka. Riding on board of Willem Botha, looking back at Gerald Fourie. And having said that, brilliant drive. Peter van der Spey, he's got some space in front of him. Let's have a look at that battle box. Peter van der Spey is 0.9 of a second behind Gerald, but he's got a gap behind him of a 1.7 seconds, and that back to JJ van der Merwe, who's ahead of Yaz Samai. Good drive. Johan Engelbrecht inside that top 10. Leonardo Bakari rounding out the top 10 at this stage of the fight. Now, I think if I remember right, Herman Lazarus started pretty much off the back end of the pack in 18th position, and he has made up 7 positions already as Herman Lazarus. But remember, Michael Stevens, Stephen McCarthy, Graham Stevens, Sandro, Raymond, all of those guys have been in and out of the pits already. Let's just see how accurate my prediction was. Yep, from Michael Stevens. They've all been into the pits, but there was a fair gap between himself and the rest of them. Let's have a look at the pit lane times. What kind of time does it take? Anything from 38 up to 40 seconds is the amount of time that you lose if you go into the pits. So if you take 40 seconds and there's 44 from Michael Stevens to Herman Lazarus, that means if Herman Lazarus goes in and comes out, he will, in fact, at this point now, he will be the leading man that's been in and out of the pits so far. So that gives you a pretty good indication of how that one's going to play itself out at this point. But the battle royal is Gerald Fourie. That's closed up onto the back end of Willem Botha. What a lovely riveting dice this has become. Remember I said Carl Lawrence is a tenth off the back of a Timothy Stanton. That has now grown to 3.2. But Carl Lawrence is fast enough to hold off the aspirations of Willem Botha at this stage of the fight. And being able to do that, that means that Gerald Fourie is closed up. So Gerald Fourie is going to be in attack mode. Gerald Fourie knows that as long as Willem is in there behind Carl Lawrence, he's not going to be able to get that extra couple of thousandths out of the lap. And Carl Lawrence is doing a... Oh, Willem sideways. What a drift. That was a brilliant piece of driving that he put in there. Utterly brilliant by Willem Botha. But is it enough to be able to hold off Gerald Fourie? He lost a little bit of time there. And Gerald's going to close right up. And now, who's going to go for that inside line? He has to go for that inside line to close off Willem Botha. From Gerald Fourie onto the gas they go. Carl Lawrence, into the pits. He doesn't want to get involved in that fight. He needs to get out of that fight because he knows Gerald Fourie is going to go in and dive onto him in the not too distant future. That opens the road now for Gerald Fourie to get to the back end of Carl Lawrence. But as Carl, you're using a whole lot of track on the outside there, as Carl Lawrence has proven that Radical SR8 around Suzuka in the format that he's driving now is a formidable combination. Carl Lawrence so far got to be first nominee for driver of race number 1. We are 8 minutes into the 25 minutes, 5 of a possible 14 laps. Gerald Fourie for the first time with open ground to now get an opportunity to see if he can go and fetch Carl Lawrence. Fetching Carl Lawrence is one thing. Even the likes of Willem Botha was not able to get past Carl Lawrence, and that for the better part of 3.5 laps. Now, in general, if Willem comes up behind somebody, believe you me, he will get past them. There's no doubt about it. He has come out, in fact, Willem Botha, ahead of Michael Stephen. Remember, Michael, Graham, Stephen, Raymond, and Sandro were all involved in that initial incident. And because they were involved in that initial incident and had to do those early pit stops, that is what has made the difference there. Yas Samai has had an off. Let's have a quick shofty, see what happened to Yas Samai. Just running it a bit wide. Oh, the tail end gets away. Now that's the exact same spot that you saw Willem Botha get it completely sideways and actually go and fetch it. Gerald Fourie in behind Carl Lawrence coming up for that last corner, that last complex, a right and a left-hander, dives it up on the inside. I think Carl Lawrence has realized, look, this is Willem Botha. Let's be fair. He is a second version of Luc Lukisi. Leon van Wyk puts up the fastest lap time, and he allows Gerald to go through. By doing that, Carl Lawrence makes sure that he doesn't lose time to the next man that is directly behind him, and that is a magnificent drive so far by Peter van der Spey. Captain Pete in that 5th position. He's got to go some because Leonardo Bakari is not that far behind him. Yas Samai has just made the move now on Leonardo Bakari. That gives a little bit of a breathing space. That is Yas Samai in the 7. Leonardo Bakari directly in there behind him. So that now puts 3 cars between Peter van der Spey, that's leading the Grand Masters, from Leonardo Bakari. And then Sandro, remember, has been in and out of the pits already. So that is going to make a realistic difference as well. But Timothy Stanton is starting to turn the heat up. Timothy Stanton's closing onto the back end of Leon van Wyk in the Being IT entry. Let's just have a look, see what was the last lap times of the... Oh, Leon van Wyk puts in the fastest lap, okay, by 600ths of a second from Timothy Stanton. His fast personal best and the fastest lap of the race so far. And having just put in the fastest lap, well, that's what happens. He gets closed up from behind. Here's that second battle. Carl Lawrence, and there is Peter van der Spey. There comes JJ van der Merwe. Coming over the rise is Johan Engelbrecht. He finds himself 5 seconds ahead of Yaz Samai. There comes Yaz Samai, who's just passed Leonardo Bakari. That ahead of Herman Lazarus, who is up 8 positions, is Herman Lazarus. Timothy Stanton, who has been closing down very, very well. Leon did the fastest lap on the previous lap. Timothy Stanton goes and beats that one. And Timothy Stanton in the 77s, closing up on the back end of Leon van Wyk. That is a massive struggle. Carl Lawrence is behind Gerald Fourie, but ahead of Peter van der Spey. Peter van der Spey won't mind where he's at right now. Look at the gap in front of him. It's 2.1. The gap behind him is 3.7. And he's got 3 cars between himself and Leonardo Bakari. And Sandro, that has already been in and out of the pits, is a long way further back. So that makes for interesting stuff. Going back to the front end of the field, 5 hundredths of a second between Leon van Wyk and Timothy Stanton in the last time around. Leon van Wyk leading out from Timothy Stanton. Is Gerald Fourie getting closer? He did a 52.8. Last lap 52.8, and that was 3/10 slower than Timothy Stanton. So Timothy Stanton's been making use of the slipstream of Leon van Wyk, and that's stretching the legs of Gerald Fourie to try and catch up. Carl Lawrence, brilliant, utterly brilliant. Peter van der Spey, awesome stuff. JJ van der Merwe in that 6th, well done. Johan Engelbrecht, the next man that's going to be coming through there, and that 5 seconds ahead of Yaz Samai. Lovely spray job that. Leonardo Bakari is having one of his best races for a long, long time. Leonardo Bakari must have done a whole bunch of practice on the SUZUKA circuit with the Radical SR8 as Timothy Stanton starts to put serious pressure now on Leon van Wyk. What does Leon do? Does he go for the overcut or does he go for the undercut? Timothy Stanton having caught him, I would tend to think that if Timothy can get right on the back bumper of Leon van Wyk, he will then go into the pits. And Johan Engelbrecht has just gone into the pits now as well. So let's see who is all in and out. The lead man out of the pits is in fact probably going to be Willem Botha. So Willem Botha is in the game. I think Timothy Stanton is, if he feels he can get past Leon van Wyk, he's going to go for it. If he feels he can't get past Leon van Wyk, then he's going to dive into the pits. It all depends when he comes out of the pits. Where does he find himself in the traffic? Will that be ahead of Willem Botha? I would think it'll be very close to where Willem Botha is right now. I think Willem was one of the guys that got involved in that initial first incident. What a brilliant dice this is. Nothing much between them. Timothy Stanton looking very, very good. Likes that Red Bull helmet. Up into 5th gear underneath the Panasonic bridge, underneath the Dunlop bridge. 14, almost 15 minutes. There'll be 10 minutes to go if he now goes into the pits with this one. I think Timothy Stanton feels that he's been held up by Leon van Wyk in the being IT entry, and I would not be surprised if Timothy Stanton's going to go straight into the pits now, rather than, no, the opposite way around. Commentator's curse, prove me wrong. And Leon decides, now, before this man gets past me, let me rather go in. But the thing now is that Gerald Fourie and Carl Lawrence, with Peter van der Spey not that far behind, will go through. JJ van der Merwe will come through as well. As where's Leonardo Bakari? Leonardo Bakari will be the next man to come through after that, unless Leonardo has gone into the pits as well. Yep, that's why we didn't see him. Leonardo Bakari has in fact gone into the pits. Leon van Wyk, where does he come out? Leon van Wyk's going to come out in a very, very dominant position, ahead of Herman Lazarus by 3 seconds, plus another 2 seconds ahead of Willem Botha. So that means that Leon van Wyk's going to lead out with Leonardo Bakari that's just gone into the pits. He's going to be leading out that battle of in and out of the pits from Willem Botha. Herman Lazarus has bumped himself a long way up will obviously still have to do that 38 to 41 second pit stop. So that is going to drop him quite a long way down. So there's Timothy Stanton. Is he quick enough to stay ahead of Gerald Fourie? Oh, driver of race number 1, Carl Lawrence, and for the Super Seniors, otherwise known as the Grandmasters, Peter van der Spy. Brilliant stuff. Peter van der Spy, he's tonking it out there. He's doing a lovely job to stay ahead of the likes of JJ. And they're not even in the same frame. In fact, 15 seconds further back comes Yas Samai. But Yas Samai, remember, has got to go into the pits. And the man that's behind him, Leon van Wyk, in the white Radical SR8 being IT entry, is a man that's been in and out of the pits already. So Leon's not going to want to get stuck behind Yas Samai at all. He'll want to hoof it up, but all the big hitters at the front is going in. Timothy Stanton's gone in. In goes Gerald Fourie. In goes Carl Lawrence. In goes Peter van der Spy. In goes JJ van der Merwe. Now, while they are there, the next man is going to come around the corner is going to be Leon van Wyk. Is he going to go straight to the front? Yes, he does. There's Leon van Wyk as he comes through, and there's the guy starting to come out of the pits. Timothy Stanton's going to be the man closest to him. Leon van Wyk and Timothy Stanton. But with Leon van Wyk having gone in ahead of Timothy Stanton, he comes out ahead of Timothy Stanton as well. Leon van Wyk somehow made up a 2.8 second gap between himself and the man that was right behind him. The next man to come through will be Gerald Fourie. He's got Willem Botha with him. Oh, looks like there's a bit of damage on the front end of Willem's car. There's a whole bunch of bodywork that's missing on that, and Willem has been into the pits. Is that going to affect the handling and outcome of that Willem Botha race machine with that amount of damage on the front end of the car? Herman Lazarus has gone in and out of the pits and regains behind Sandra Bakari. Sandra is having a dismal session today. The other fight is Graham Stephen that's coming up onto the back end there of Johan Engelbrecht. And that for 9th position is that battle that they've got. Willem Botha on a Gerald Fourie. That is for 3rd position between the two of them. And then for 13th and 14th is Raymond Duggan. That's in behind Leonardo Bakari. Leonardo ahead of Sandro Bakari. So disaster in this one for Sandro Bakari. He's had a couple of amazing races recently. Turned up the wick and really put the pressure on Peter van der Spy. But I must say, to me, so far, driver of the race with 5.5 minutes to go has got to be that man, Carl Lawrence, for the Masters, and that man, Peter van der Spy, for the Grandmasters. Even the likes of Michael Stephen, 6 seconds behind Peter van der Spy, as Carl Lawrence gets sideways. Oh, they make contact. Willem Botha was going for it at that stage of the fight. Willem goes off. Odds are he's going to click back to the pits. Yes, he does. Willem Botha clicks back to the pits. That is disaster for Willem. He's missed the last 2 races, and now things have not worked out for him with this one, as he was trying to go for that move. So Graham Stephen on the back end of Johan Engelbrecht. Nothing much between the two of them. They're pretty much on the same pace. And then Raymond Duggan on the back end of Bakari. I think we're going to have a look at that Willem Botha incident from on board. I think that's going to give us the best possible idea of what actually happened with that one. We can just change the replay camera shot so we can look from inside Willem's car. Yeah, lots of damage to that motor car for Willem Botha. You can see that car just does not want to go where he wants it to go. that is the actual... Yeah, Willem Botha with the damage on his car. Under braking with no downforce, with no front wing. That's what created that scenario, and that unfortunately costing him very badly. Well, he tried, give him his due, even without the front wing. He was still going for the passing maneuver, as is Graham Stephen. It tries to stick it up on the inside of Jan Engelbrecht. Jan Engelbrecht decides 8th position. Oh, Jan Engelbrecht loses it. He was doing so well, was Jan Engelbrecht, but Graham Stephen put the pressure on him there with just 3.5 minutes to go. And it paid off. Carl Lawrence is... Carl Lawrence has had an incident. Carl Lawrence has had an incident. Let's see what happened to Carl Lawrence. That looks all good. Turns it in nicely. Oh, driver error. Carl Lawrence. Can you believe it? Commentators curse. He goes and touches the accelerator just a smidgen too hard. Goes back to the pits, and that takes Carl Lawrence completely out of it. What a disappointment for Carl Lawrence. He was doing it all right up until then. Definitely my nomination for driver of race number 1 up until that point. So let's have a quick look down the pack and see how this one's going to play itself out. There's a Leon van Wyk. There is a Timothy Stanton. Has Gerald Fourie been able to catch up to them? Well, let's have a rear view. Look at that. 5 seconds is what you need to have a nice open track behind you. And it has not been possible for Gerald Fourie. There you can see Gerald coming through. It's not been possible for him to be able to catch up. He's 5.4 seconds behind the high-flying Timothy Stanton. Leon van Wyk and Timothy Stanton have been in crushing form here today. Utterly brilliant. Peter van der Spey becomes the new highest nomination for driver of the day. Captain Pete, when everybody else made the errors, he took the 108 Grandmaster entry, and he's kept it ahead of all and everything. In fact, the closest man to him is there in the background. There he is. It's Michael Stephen. Then it's JJ van der Merwe. There comes Graham Stephen. Unlikely color scheme for Graham Stephen. And Graham Stephen in that 7th position. We've done 13 of a possible 14 laps. Probably find the next time that they come around will be for the white flag, not the checker. Oh dear. And it looks like Leonardo Beccari, it's just gone from bad to worse. Leonardo Beccari has had her off as well. So far so good. Comes up under the braking markers, and the back end just steps away. Gearing down and too hard on the brakes all at the same time. Oh, it takes him a long time to get back onto the track as well, and that's going to cost him very, very dearly. Raymond Duggan still in that battle. Raymond Duggan on the back end of Yaz Samai. Everybody has been in and out of the pits already. We're 24.5 minutes into this one. Where's our leader? There is Leon van Wyk. Will he have to do one more lap with Timothy Stanton right in there behind him? They've not got the white flag yet, and I think he's going to be able to get to the start-finish line probably before the 25-minute cutoff. Will this maybe be the last lap for him? Yep, he gets the white flag with literally 2 seconds. Leon van Wyk from Timothy Stanton, from Gerald Fourie, from the driver of the day, if he doesn't do a Carl Lawrence on himself in the last lap. Peter van der Spey from Michael Stephen. JJ a little bit further back, being closed down by Graham Stephen. That's got it up to 7th position already. Carl Lawrence comes out of the pits. Graham Stephen will just ride right around the outside of him. So Carl's managed to get it back on track, but that leaves him in last position. Leon van Wyk. Well, you've got to think about him for driver of the day as well, because I mean, he was omnipotent in practice, he was omnipotent in qualifying. He's dominated this race. The only man that's been able to really sit alongside him is that man, Timothy Stanton. So both of them utterly amazing stuff. But you would kind of expect Leon to be in the top 5. You'd kind of expect Timothy to be in the top 5. You'd kind of expect the next man behind him, Gerald Fourie, to be in the top 5 as well. But you wouldn't expect Peter van der Spey to be overall 4th position. And I think that is utterly outstanding by Peter van der Spey. This is the type of cars that he likes to drive as we move towards the line for the last time. Following through on our leader, Leon van Wyk. Leon takes the checkered flag. In there behind him is Timothy Stanton. Brilliant stuff. Gerald Fourie will come across the line as well. There comes Gerald Fourie. And definitely driver of race number 1. In the absence of Carl Lawrence, Peter van der Spey. Driver of the day for race number 1. A lovely recovery drive there by Michael Steven. Very good. JJ van der Merwe just outside of the top 5 with Graham Steven behind him. Johan Engelbrecht, also a good result for Johan Engelbrecht. He's there in that 8th position in the 200 entry. So I think he'll be pretty chuffed with that one as well. Here comes the 71 of Raymond Duggan. Yasamai on the line just ahead there of Sandro Bakari. The recovering Herman Lazarus finds himself a long way further back in the 69. Remember, he started at the back end of the pack and on the 12 car invert. That means he's going to stand in pole position. Well, Herman Lazarus, so that's going to make for some interesting stuff as Stephen McCarthy comes across the line. And that means that everybody has completed their race as such. So let's have a look-see at those results as soon as the computer will allow us to have those results. Leon van Wyk, omnipotent, brilliant. Timothy Stanton, of his best to date. I mean, he's always a regular up front. We used to say top 8, then we said top 7, then we said top 6, then we said top 5. Now he's running right at the front there where it really counts and putting the pressure on Leon van Wyk as well. So to both of them, kudos. Fantastic stuff. To stay ahead of a hard-charging and very upbeat Gerald Fourie, that takes some doing. Peter van der Spey, Grandmaster, inside of the top 4, just off the main podium, driver for race number 1. Lovely recovery there by Michael Steven from JJ van der Merwe. Graham from the back end up through to 7th. Johan Engelbrecht, I think you'll be happy with that 8th. Raymond Duggan, pretty much where he would expect to be. Yasamai, I think, would have liked to have been about 2 positions further forward. Sandro Bakari will not be happy with that one, although he beats out on Leonardo. He gets beaten out significantly by Peter van der Spey. And Peter van der Spey will be pulling away in 8th position. And Sandro Bakari will be pulling away on the front row of the grid on the invert. So now the pressure's on for Peter van der Spey, because Sandro will want to avenge that 2nd place to Peter van der Spey. Pulling away at the front, he'll do everything in his power to stay out of the troubles and not go off and force Peter to try and come and fetch him. And from that far back, well, Peter van der Spey is going to have to do some amazing stuff. So for those of you that have arrived a little bit late, it's season 11. It's the Radical SR8, and the track that we are at is in fact Suzuka. There you can see. First corner, snake, anti-banked curve. How's that? Degner, the 130R, the 200Rs. Last curve. Yeah, original to say the least. Backstretch, that makes a whole heap of sense. And spoon curve because of the shape. So pretty interesting how they came to the names that comes up there. So while you have a shofty at that, we're going to go away from you for 30 seconds and come back to you with the grid for heat number 2. Top 12, invert. Right, so there's your grid. Herman Lazarus and so Herman, that started at the back of race number 1, made up 7 positions and then ended up at the back again. Will fancy his chances with this one. And Sandro Bakari in with a chance to avenge himself as well. Yasamai, Raymond Duggan, Johan Engelbrecht starting in 5th. He's got a lot of big hitters around him. Graham Stephen, JJ van der Merwe, Michael Stephen, Peter van der Spey that's on the roll. Can Captain Pete go and fetch Sandro Bakari? Can Sandro Bakari stay out of the troubles and not get caught up anywhere and force Peter van der Spey to ride 11 tenths all night long to try and catch him? Mere seconds to go before the chaos starts. Let's hope it's not chaos. As I said, let's hope it's not chaos, because there the Herman Lazarus was going to go for it, and Sandro Bakari decides he's going to have a go. It's Yasamai that's having to look up on that inside line. Johan Engelbrecht and Graham Stephen are going to be pretty much side by side. It's Herman Lazarus down in towards turn number 1. It's Yasamai on the inside line. Can Yasamai take the lead? No, he doesn't. He backs out of it and holds up Sandro Bakari, who now gets closed down by Raymond Duggan. The front 4, there's nothing much in it. Graham Stephen, Johan Engelbrecht's right in there as well as they work their way through. Johan Engelbrecht is the black car. Then behind that is Michael Stephen. That's the red and blue. You can see the green car there of JJ van der Merwe with Peter van der Spey. That's right in there behind him. Peter's already up into that 10th position. It's Herman Lazarus that leads. Oh, Herman Lazarus goes off. I think he might have been touched from behind. It's possible. We'll have a look at that. Falling back now is Yasamai, as Sandro Bakari is making sure that he takes Peter van der Spey to the cleaners by making sure that he stays out of trouble. He needs to avenge that 2nd position. Sandro Bakari leads out from Raymond Duggan. It's Yasamai. It's Graham Stephen that's in the back. Johan Engelbrecht is up into 5th position. He does a close-up maneuver on that inside line. Does Johan Engelbrecht, because right in there behind him was Michael Stephen and Gerald Fourie as well. Gerald Fourie is getting very, very close at this stage of the fight. And it's got, look at that. That's from Gerald Fourie's point of view. Remember, this was where Willem went wide the previous time. And it is Johan Engelbrecht that went wide. Remember, we saw Willem get it into a 4-wheel drift and actually catch it. Then we saw later on in race number 1, it was Yasamai that actually lost it completely there. As we ride on board with Gerald Fourie in behind Johan Engelbrecht. He'll want to go for a dive on Johan Engelbrecht. Johan Engelbrecht actually had to lift lightly off because he closed right up onto Michael Stephen. That meant that Gerald Fourie had to go but wide. That puts JJ right up there behind him, line astern. One very, very tight snake. Oh, somebody's gone off. Who's that? It's Yasamai. Yasamai falls out of the pack. Sandro from Raymond, from Graham. Sandro Bakari with the open ground in front of him has put up the fastest lap time. A .430 in the 54s, the only man in the 54s, along with Raymond Duggan. Everybody else sitting in the traffic as we ride on board with Gerald Fourie. Gerald Fourie all over the back of Johan Engelbrecht. He knows he's got to get a move on because Michael Stephen, went for the move. There wasn't enough space. Johan Engelbrecht's doing a brilliant job to hold out Gerald Fourie. Peter van der Spey's right in there behind him as well, as they work their way through the 100R. Oh, you're going to have a look around on the outside line. Not going to be able to get through there either. Johan Engelbrecht is desperately holding on to that position through the right-hander. Now, Johan Engelbrecht runs it a bit wide. Too much pressure. Gerald Fourie makes it through. Gerald Fourie now sees Michael Stephen in front of him as they work their way up the hill now towards that 180-degree bend. There's the front 4 that you see directly in front of him. Sandro Bakari, Raymond Duggan, Graham Stephen, and Michael Stephen. So the Stevens brothers, can they do what they did just a week back and do a Stevens lockout like what they did in race number 2 7 days ago? Not realistically impossible, but Sandro Bakari will be hoping, wishing and praying that it all works out for him, because he knows that Raymond Duggan is a pretty good buffer for him with Graham and Michael and Gerald behind that. So he'll be quite okay. Well, having said that, it's going to all change up because Graham Stephen has already moved up ahead of Raymond Duggan. Now Sandro Bakari has got the first of the big hitters. That's already there by him. Graham Stephen onto the back end of Sandro Bakari. Raymond Duggan's just been passed. The next man behind him is Michael Stephen. What can Michael Stephen do? No, he's not close enough to get past Raymond. Raymond runs it wide. Raymond runs it wide and through goes yet another vehicle being Michael Stephen. Well. Raymond Duggan, the pressure's on because now he's got Gerald Ferree coming up behind him. Gerald Ferree will take no prisoners. That's a distance back to Gerald Ferree. Just on 3/10 of a second. We'll keep an eye on that one, how it's going to play itself out. Carl Lawrence is starting to slowly but surely make a bit of headway. He's up to that 9th position. He came off the back end of the pack. Who has already been into the pits? Leon van Wyk did the early dive. He decided that he's not going to get stuck once again in the traffic. Goes for the early dive into the pits, and he's going to be your marker. Leon van Wyk, to my mind, is going to be your marker. We've got to go back to Gerald Ferree and have a look, see how that... Oh, look at that. One high-speed liner stern. What better view can there be than from that onboard of Gerald Ferree? Johan Engelbrecht's just gone off circuit, managed to get back onto the track again and stays ahead of Peter van der Spey, although Peter van der Spey is right there with Johan Engelbrecht. Johan Engelbrecht a better drive out of the corner and managed to hold on to that. So Johan Engelbrecht just outside of the top 5. Oh, as they come flying through there on a back marker. Let's get that battle box up. We can see exactly who that was. That was Stephen McCarthy that they came past. So having said that, Michael Stephen, I think, has just got past Sandro Bakari. Sandro Bakari, yep, he drops down, and there's Michael Stephen up on that inside line. It's the Stevens brothers once again that finds himself. Oh, good drive through the apex of the corner there by Sandro Bakari. Carried the pace through very, very well and actually closed up a bit onto the back end once again after the apex of the corner. Brilliant stuff by Sandro Bakari. He's doing a masterful job, only allowing these two to get in front of him. He's got Raymond Duggan 1.3 seconds behind him. I think he might get away from Raymond Duggan. And the reason why I say that is because this man we're riding on board with, Gerald Ferree, has closed up onto the back of Raymond Duggan and putting massive pressure. Oh, Raymond gets it sideways. He paints those black stripes on the tarmac as he got the gas down. So he's under a lot of pressure, and they're going to make contact with that one, unfortunately. Gerald Ferree went in there too hard and too deep, and that's the front end of his car that's gone. So you'll probably find he will maybe know what happened to Willem Botha earlier on, and he will then decide he's got to go into the pits now. Well, knowing that the nose cone is gone, even if we didn't see exactly what happened, look how he's got to go right off the gas. He's got to feather it completely to make sure that he can get it to turn. So I'm pretty sure that Gerald Ferree, having made that one little error, is going to go into the pits. Let's see what it looks like at Suzuka. If you go into the pits, you'll see there's quite a bit of dirt on the lanes as he runs into the rev limiter. You'll probably find he's going to dive it into the pits now. Let's go back to Carl Lawrence. Carl Lawrence has got that whole string of cars in front of him. Stephen McCarthy, Peter van der Spey, Johan Engelbrecht. One of them decides to dive in. That's Peter van der Spey. Peter van der Spey deciding Sandro's making sure he doesn't get into trouble. I've got to make sure that I don't get into trouble either, because then I'm going to hand it to him and take the pressure off him, and that ain't going to work. Carl Lawrence late on the brakes. Medium apex as he comes in behind Stephen McCarthy. But while that's on the go, Michael Stephen and Graham Stephen, they are making sure that they get a bit of a gap from Sandro Bakari, but not that much. Really not that much. Sandro Bakari is doing a Peter van der Spey in race number 2, and he wants his name to go up as driver of the race. Does Sandro? He holds on to that third position. He's ahead of a very good drive today by Johan Engelbrecht. Johan Engelbrecht just ahead of Evergreen. Stephen McCarthy, one of the big five that brought second-year productions on board with some seriously decent equipment. Don't ever forget about that top five that made it happen for us. Carl Lawrence once again having a very good race. Carl was actually very unlucky with that first race. I would have thought that if he didn't make any mistakes, he would have been my driver of race number one. Just that one little mistake, and that took him right to the back end of the pack. Well, he's right in the game now. He's in there behind Stephen McCarthy. But don't forget about this man, Leon van Wyk. He's the leading man that's been in and out of the pits, and he is 15. No, he's not. He's only 1 second ahead of Timothy Stanton, who's a smidgen ahead of Gerald Fourie, and they don't find themselves a long way ahead of Peter van der Spey either. There comes Captain Pete. Raymond Duggan, who's dropped down but still in the game. He's slowly but surely falling back, but at a very, very slow rate. Van Engelbrecht has gone into the pits. Stephen McCarthy has gone into the pits. Joopie Simons will be the next man that's going to come past. What is Carl Lawrence going to do? Carl Lawrence almost took Jan Engelbrecht off the circuit there. Jan Engelbrecht, in fact, running two wheels on the grass for an extended period of time just before the braking marker, and happened to get that one together. Jan Engelbrecht is in the pits. Stephen McCarthy is in the pits. But Leon van Wyk is going to come past. So Leon van Wyk from a Timothy Stanton, from a Gerald Fourie. That is the people that have been in and out of the pits. Then it's Peter van der Spey with Raymond Duggan, that's right in there behind him, and Johan Engelbrecht, and JJ van der Merwe, and Stephen McCarthy. Can you believe it? It just hasn't worked out for Willem Botha. There comes Willem Botha, and disaster for him in race number one. Disaster for him so far in race number two, but there's still 15 minutes to go, so he will be able to make up some of that, as Carl Lawrence tries to put the pressure onto Leonardo Vaccari. But now remember, Leonardo Vaccari has not been into the pits. Neither has Sandro been into the pits either. But there is 14 seconds gap between them as Carl Lawrence goes one up on Leonardo Vaccari. Oopsie, somebody's gone off there. I think that was Joopie Simons. Pretty sure that was Joopie Simons as we do on board this very same corner. Remember how it caught out Willem Botha? Remember how it caught out Yaz Samai? Exact same scenario. The only difference was that Willem Botha managed to keep it going somehow or other. Takes a bit of time to get it back onto the track. Trying to get that massive power down was Joopie Simons. But Michael and Graham Stephen running line astern. The Stephen brothers doing exactly what they did last week. Running a first and second in race number two. Once they get away, well, it's a different story. The whole trick now is where are they going to come out as opposed to Leon van Wyk. And Leon van Wyk has just made another passing maneuver on one of the back markers. Leon van Wyk from Timothy Stanton. Leon van Wyk, Timothy Stanton, Gerald Fourie, Captain Pete. First, second, third and fourth of those in and out of the pits. JJ van der Merwe feels that he can have a go at the back end of Stephen McCarthy. And look, he's had pressure on Stephen for a long time, but he hasn't been able to consummate that. Talking about consummated, what is the chances of Timothy Stanton this time around being able to get in a straight race past Leon van Wyk? Leon van Wyk, the winner of race number one, with Timothy Stanton in that second position. And now they find themselves in first and second as well, but they've still got to do the pit stop of the cars in front of them to see where it actually plays itself out. Let's have a look at that one. Leon van Wyk, it's 11, 16, 17, 18, 19. I think Timothy Stanton. Yep, Michael Stephen goes in. He's the tester. Michael Stephen goes into the pits. So as Michael goes in, the next man to come through is going to be Carl Lawrence. He comes into the complex. Michael Stephen into the pit lane. Carl Lawrence will not be that far behind. Graham's carried on going. Here comes Carl Lawrence. He'll probably get past Michael Stephen. Yes, he does. Michael Stephen is still standing. What about Leon van Wyk? This is the acid test. Can Leon van Wyk, as Michael Stephen is on his way out of the pits, and where is Leon van Wyk? Oh, Michael Stephen's going to make it. Michael Stephen's going to make it, because there comes Leon van Wyk, Timothy Stanton, and Gerald Fourie. So, having done that, it's still Graham, Sandro, Carl, and Leonardo that have to go into the pit. So, probably fine. Graham Stephen, let's see what kind of gap has he got in front of him. Graham Stephen, he's got 48 seconds of open time in front of him. There is no reason for him right now to go into the pits. He's got nothing in front of him. It's Yuppie Simons, 48 seconds ahead of him. So to go into the pits now and maybe come out in traffic definitely would not work. He's far enough ahead of that man, Sandro Bakari, 4.5 seconds behind him. Then another 16 seconds back to Carl Lawrence, who also has not been into the pits, and Leonardo Bakari, that's not been into the pit lane either. So Michael Stephen with a realistic gap on a Leon van Wyk at the moment. But remember, there's not much between these two. If we have a look back from that lead vehicle, that's Michael Stephen there in the background, the white car. That's the being IT entry of Leon van Wyk. He's got Timothy Stanton giving him one hell of a fight, and Gerald Fourie has now come into it as well. Graham Stephen has gone into the pits. There he stands. Sandro Bakari has gone into the pits. Carl Lawrence has gone into the pits. Leonardo Bakari has gone into the pits. So that means that the next thing now is Michael Stephen. Will he come ahead of Graham? No, looks like Graham's going to make it. There's Graham, and Michael's got the drive. They'll be... Oh, he just blows around the outside. Michael Stephen on a Graham Stephen. And they both find themselves now ahead of a Leon van Wyk, Timothy Stanton, and Gerald Fourie. That top five is invitingly close to one another. There's really nothing much between them at all. Riding on board once again, as we did earlier on from Gerald Fourie. There's fourth in front of him, third in front of that. A bit of a gap. You can see the second place car, which is Graham Stephen. And the one right in front that you'll just get a glimpse of now as he goes around the corner, that's Michael Stephen. So Gerald Fourie will fancy his chances of moving up a little bit further forward. Now that everybody has been in and out of the pits. On the next time around, we'll be able to see who is the quickest out there. Gerald Fourie on Timothy Stanton. He was about 1300ths of a second quicker on the previous lap than Timothy. Is Timothy being held up by Leon? I don't think so. I think Timothy's got the pace to get to Leon, but it's just so close to try and get past. I don't know if he's going to be able to get past Leon, Timothy on Leon. Can Gerald get past Timothy? That's another story, because Timothy's having an amazing race. It's only the Stevens brothers that have managed to get ahead of Leon and Timothy. And if you take Leon and Timothy were first and second in race number one, and they're now in third and fourth positions. Well, we'll see what the lap times are. With 17.5 minutes gone, a 52.9. Graham having gone into the pits, so 52.6, so 3/10 Leon van Wyk quicker than Michael Stephen. That's interesting, but it is a 1.4 second gap. So that then bodes the question, because Gerald Fourie is quicker than Timothy Stanton by 2/10, and Timothy Stanton is a 10th off Leon van Wyk. So we'll have to let it go one more lap to try and get a better idea as to how this is going to play itself out. Let's ride on board with Timothy Stanton. Oh, Leon under pressure. Leon's under pressure. Raymond Duggan having a look at the back end of Peter van der Spey as well. Taking a completely different line there. Leon coming from wide into an early-ish apex. Well, they're now so equidistant from one another. Look at that. They're going to be coming up past Herman. Oh, Herman Lazarus gets nibbled there from behind. And unfortunately, that is going to turn up the wick on this one. Willem Botha has also had an incident. Let's see what happened to Willem Botha. Just picking up a little bit too much track, trying to hold on to it. Bringing the nose around. The back end does touch, spins it, rolls it back away from the circuit. Full locks it to the right hand side to get it going again. And hopefully not touched by anybody else. And Leon van Wyk has had an off. Let's see what happened to Leon van Wyk. Coming up towards that. Oh, he's a bit on the loose side coming in. Yeah, he was just a little bit too hard. Leon van Wyk. It looks like he doesn't have a nose cone either. So he must have had some contact. Did Leon van Wyk, because Gerald Fourie got past him. Yeah, it was Leon that was involved with that incident with Lazarus. And obviously the damage then to the motor car, which created the secondary incident as well. So now, oh, what an amazing race. But it was predicted that it was going to be a biggie. There's no doubt about it. Michael Stephen from Graham Stephen. Now the question bodes Timothy Stanton 1.8 seconds off Timothy Stanton, with the hard driving Gerald Fourie directly in there behind him. Can Timothy Stanton close the gap while he fends that man off? Gerald Fourie. Peter van der Spey is ahead of Sandro Bakari. That means Peter van der Spey is going to hold it all together. He's going to pick up 2 wins for the Grandmasters today. I think he'll be super duper chuffed with that. I think he's done a lot of practicing for this one. Willem Botha did jump back to the pits just now. So, as the leading duo, they're not going to fight one another and hold one another up. It's amazing how many times they end up line astern, Michael and Graham Stephen. It's like the one copies the other one's setup, the other one copies the other one's style and lines, and they end up just being on the same pace. Graham Stephen, will he go for the move? 2 brothers duking it out, but Timothy Stanton, Gerald Fourie, that's that next battle that's coming through. There's Captain Peter van der Spey. Raymond Duggan in that 6th position, very nice. Sandro Bakari in sight of Peter van der Spey. Is it close enough? Can he make a plan to still get to Peter van der Spey? There you can see Peter van der Spey ahead of him. But he's got 2 cars between himself and Peter. Oh, Sandro really spinning up those rear tires under power. He's pushing it so hard. But he's been forced to push it so hard because of the pace of Peter van der Spey. Using as much of the circuit as he can possibly find is Sandro McCarthy. Stephen McCarthy in the 33 finds himself still inside of the top 10 and ahead of JJ van der Merwe. JJ van der Merwe with 22 minutes 45 seconds gone, within striking distance, but he's in the top 10. He's got 3 seconds. Don't go too wide, right on the edge. Feather it nicely, keep it all together. Stephen McCarthy using quite a bit of the curbstone at that point as the 3 of them come through. Is Graham and Michael Stephen going to fight it out and maybe, just maybe, make a mistake? And that's going to open it up, because that's 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th position. Can you believe it? After 23 minutes, that your front four can be so close to one another. Michael Stephen is battling to hold off Graham Stephen. Graham Stephen almost looks to be the quicker of the two, but as I said, they shouldn't fight one another, because Timothy Stanton is closing. Timothy Stanton's managed to hold off Gerald Fourie, which means he's at one hell of a pace himself. Timothy Stanton a 152.8, a 53.8, and a 53.9 for the cars in front of him. So Timothy Stanton has worked wonders and brought Gerald Fourie with him. Oh, running at very wide was Michael Stephen. That means that Graham's going to close right up under braking as they go into that 180 degree. Oh, what a dive, Timothy Stanton. Gerald Fourie will take his chances and get just a little bit closer. Timothy was actually a little bit too late on the brakes. It looks massive, but it doesn't compute into getting closer to the car in front of you. And I think the next time that they come around now is probably going to be for the white flag. They are on a lap number 13, although they might get to the 25-minute mark before they get to the line. Very possibly they're going to do that. And the Stevens boys are alongside one another. This is dangerous. This is very, very dangerous. They can take one another out and they can open the door. Timothy Stanton's going to stick his nose in as they come up. This could be the last complex of corners, and it's worked against them. Graham Stephen loses out on that one. I said they mustn't fight one another, and it's going to be checkered flag. It is going to be checkered flag. Michael Stephen from Timothy Stanton, from Gerald Fourie. Graham dropping down 2 positions to that 4th position. Wow, the brothers fought it out right until the end. Raymond Duggan comes through. The next man behind him is going to be, well done, Sandro Bakari, that ends up in a very good position there. He made it count when he needed to. Stephen McCarthy from Jan Engelbrecht, from Peter van der Spey, JJ van der Merwe, Carl Lawrence. A long way back, Leon van Wyk. Oh, what a turn up for the books. What a race. That was something else. Our new man, Joopie Simons. It's going to be the next man to come through there behind Leonardo Bakari. He'll be the last man out on circuit. Willem Botha packed it in, Swace packed it in, and Jas Samaye packed it in earlier on. As the last man comes up towards the line. And he comes through to finish his race as well. What can you say? How can you describe this? This is utterly amazing. Utterly amazing stuff. So, let's have a look. That's heat number 1. Leon, Timothy, Gerald, Michael. Let's leave the Grandmasters out of it. Let's have a look at how they came up in the feature. Michael Stephen. He's had a good day. Timothy Stanton's had a good day. Gerald Fourie's had a good day. With Leon van Wyk dropping down after the incident down to 12th position, the battle between Timothy Stanton and Leon van Wyk, who was so close, actually then is one out at this stage of the fight by Timothy Stanton. So I think you must say he came out tops because that one incident for Leon van Wyk, although Leon did beat him in race number 1. They were 1st and 2nd positions. So Michael Stephen from Timothy Stanton, I'm going to tend to say, I think Timothy Stanton, my driver for race number 2. Coming 2nd in race number 1, coming 2nd in race number 2. I think overall driver of the day, let's say Timothy Stanton. A brilliant drive in the final race of the day for Michael and Graham Stephen. Slightly overzealous, but they had a bit of space. Sandro Bakari winning out on Peter van der Spey, so it's a win in a second, and a win in the second for Sandro and Peter, so they even out on points for the day, with Leonardo coming through in 3rd. Herman Nazareth, that started off the back end of the pack, didn't have a good one. Willem Botha, disaster race number 1, disaster race number 2, having missed out 2 events and now having this result, that's going to drop him a long way down on the points. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here with you, and we'll be back same time next week for the next round of season number 11, race number 8 that we will be doing next week. From my side, Gary Gazer, been great to be here with you. Cheers, everybody.